I'm Madam Berry. In 2014, I had just graduated from Savannah College of Art and Design with a BFA in Interactive Design and Game Development. I had been applying to companies where I could find them and making games on my own. I loved participating in game jams, which are these events where a bunch of people get together and they have a limited amount of time to create a game from scratch. Some of my best works came from game jams, including my Norse slam poetry simulator Edda, and the beginnings of what would become my magnum opus as a game dev, Visual Out. 4 years later, in the summer of 2018, I made the decision to stop making games entirely, at least for the foreseeable future. How did it come to that point? Visual Out was a 3-year-long endeavor. I started working on it in early 2015, and it wouldn't release until March of 2018. It took twice as long as I thought it would to finish. I won't get into why, because game production is a multifaceted thing and it would take an entire video in and of itself to explain where the delays came from. It's hard to say when I started burning out, but definitely by 2017, around halfway through the game's production, I had already long sailed off of that cliff. I was committed to finishing and releasing the game, in part because I had financial backing on Patreon and a large group of people expecting and anticipating the game's release, but also for personal reasons. I pride myself on my tenacity, and I'd be damned if I was throwing in the towel at that point. After the game released in March of 2018, to some modest success, I spent a few months thinking that I'd be fine if I spent some time making smaller games and prototypes for a while. As long as I didn't get involved in another years-long project, I thought I could find my spark again. I think part of me knew that I wasn't going to be able to get that sinking ship to float again, but I just didn't want to face that fact. It took talking with a friend and mentor to realize I had to give myself permission to let go of the thing that was making me miserable in order to pursue something more fulfilling. When she asked what I would do if not for games, and I replied I wanted to do more traditional paintings, I will never forget her reply. She said, "Listen to the way that your tone of voice literally changed when you talked about painting. Go do that. Do the thing that lights you up." Creative burnout is nothing to sneeze at, especially when art is your career and you can't take time off without risking the loss of income. Burnout symptoms vary between everyone, but there are some common signs that you might be in its throes. You might feel a visceral dread when you open up your sketchbook or software or paint palette or what have you. You would literally do anything else but that. You feel sick even thinking about getting started. Your thoughts are racing with all the things that you want to do. This isn't a symptom that I experience personally, but a friend of mine, Ashley Christ, has described one of her burnout symptoms as not being able to sleep because her brain won't shut up with all the ideas and tasks that she needs to complete. You're constantly exhausted. You don't have the mental bandwidth to keep up with your daily tasks. Everything feels insurmountable, and the smallest task feels like climbing a mountain. You're unsatisfied by everything you do. Intrinsic motivation has long since left the building, and looking at any work that you do manage to complete leaves you with a sense of disappointment, like you could have done more. Your thoughts are fatalistic. You can't stop thinking that you're doomed to fail, that you'll never live up to expectations, or that your work has peaked at one point in the past and you'll never reach that height again. You're neglecting your physical and social needs in favor of keeping up with your work. You're working with tunnel vision, ignoring everything else around you. And even more severe symptoms like anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia, and depression. Joachim Sandberg, the developer of Iconoclasts, has talked about his post-release depression and the therapy that he had to go to in order to recover. Hopefully if you're watching this because you think you might be burning out, you aren't quite at this point yet, but if you are, please take care of yourself. You are more important than your work. Recognizing your personal burnout symptoms and heading them off early can keep you from reaching an even worse state later down the road. The longer you stay working in a burnt out state, the longer your recovery is going to take. So when you start to feel some of these symptoms regularly, it might be a sign that you need to take a brief break and indulge in some self-care. Forcing yourself to work while sick or injured, pulling multiple regular all-nighters to catch up on work, and neglecting your social circle all put a significant strain on your physical and mental resources. Keep a healthy work-life balance by setting boundaries for your work and taking breaks often. Both small breaks to stretch and eat, and also longer vacations to refresh your mind. Unfortunately, in my case, by the time I faced myself and admitted that I was burnt out, preventative breaks just weren't enough to bring back my desire to make games. In my case, I ended up having to remove myself from the situation that was causing me pain and quit game development entirely for the foreseeable future. I did want a different creative outlet though. Putting a full stop to creative endeavors would have left me with a weird emptiness, so I was glad I had a budding interest in watercolor at the time. As someone who considers herself a multi-creative, it's important to understand that seasons for different aspects of creativity might come and go. The season for game development had passed for me, and while it may come back around, I'm glad I can enjoy where I'm at in my creative journey now. And I'm glad to say that I'm no longer at a point where doing creative work fills me with that sick pit of dread in my stomach that I used to have. While my priorities are different right now and don't make room for getting back into game development at the moment, I feel confident that when I do take it back up, I'll be able to do so with a clear and refreshed mind. I hope this was helpful for any of you who have burnt out or think you might be burning out and want to hear from somebody who's gone through the same experience. If you want a deeper dive into managing your creative productivity, I'm writing a workbook. It has 8 chapters going step by step from setting a goal to developing systems to stick with it, to understanding your own burnout symptoms and how to maintain a healthy creative balance so you avoid burning out. Each chapter also has worksheets for you to fill out to help you discover your own creative journey. More information will be in the description. This speed paint was voted on by my patrons. If you want to say in which speed paint I make next, head over to my Patreon page. You also have access to other rewards like exclusive wallpapers, monthly prints, surprise originals, and more. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.